All right, so if you have any questions or additions because I misspelled something, a period's wrong, or there's something not in the right font or bold, please feel free to point that out to me after the meeting. We don't want to take up everybody's time with something like that. However, if there are any questions or you see any errors, somebody sharing a room, you're not getting relieved, your name's on there twice, if your name's not on there at all, just be quiet and thank goodness that I've skipped you and you can you have a day off. Your day off will be spent about fighting fires with me, so you're not really having a day off, but you're not in the room. Are there any questions? All right, so a couple of reminders for you as we start into the heavy testing season. On Monday, it's just 8th grade testing, and they will be down on Smith's side of the building, and Usry, Hubbard's, Ling, and King's room, respectively. So make sure on Mondays we're being very good about silent transitions, keeping everybody quiet. If you're sharing, there's only one place that shares a wall, because I couldn't avoid sharing the wall, which is Hubbard and Wilson's room. So make sure, Mr. Wilson, just be extra vigilant in your classroom and make sure that the scholars are being quiet that day, because we don't want to disturb the testers next to them. We only had 2 minor hiccups and no official incident reports, so good job. Just a quick reminder on the things that, some things that have come up at other schools and at our schools. Cell phones. You take them up. Do not give them back to scholars until they are about to go to lunch. If there are any tests out in the building other than our extended timers, we don't want them in their hands. Just to be double safe. All right. We had some goofballs that didn't turn them off but had them up at the front and it went off. That's going to happen sometimes. Just make sure that they have everything turned off. Just double check for them, okay? Cell phones are a really sensitive issue for us and for TEA. Make sure they're filling out the right section of the test. This is especially true if you do 8th grades. If you're proctoring 8th grade, there's even an extra sheet that the TEA sent out that's in your testing bin because they had reading and math on the same sheet, but they changed it so they gave us another sheet, but it has spaces for both. So make sure they're filling out the proper test in the proper spot on the answer document. We'll be walking through to help with that as well. Some other things, make sure on their answer documents they're filling in the form number, the booklet number. Make sure you're bubbling the S for score at the end of it. I'll check all these things with you as you come back in, but just make sure you're doing that ahead of time. Everybody else did great, filled out the seating charts great, all the other paperwork, everybody was a champ at, so thank you all for being so professional. Let's continue to do that. Tuesday and Wednesday, everybody but 9th grade is testing. 9th grade will be in the library and in these 2 rooms, 115 and 113. So there's no reason you'll see any 9th graders going down that hall. Everybody's testing, and we test till 12:45. Mr. Fowler, what about lunch? We usually lunch at 12. Yes. So we will be delivering lunch to the classroom. They will have hot lunches in little clamshells, is what they call them. We'll be delivering those. We also be delivering trash bags, so you don't have to deposit all those lunches into one tiny little trash can. So we'll be delivering those around 12:45. And they'll be in the classrooms eating lunch from 12:45 to 12:15, and then we will go to, on Tuesday, RTI. On Wednesday, we'll go to 5th period. Any questions about that?
I do.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
8th graders eating lunch in their classrooms on Monday?
They're not eating classrooms lunch on Monday because they'll be done at 12:45, which is when they normally go to lunch anyway, so they'll just go to standard lunch except for the extended timers.
Okay.
And the reason we're not even attempting to take anybody into the lunchroom is because we'd have all 4 grades eating at the same time. We can't fit all of them in the cafeteria, so 9th will go to lunch normally, 6, 7, and 8 will have lunch in the classrooms. I put it on there, but also just be courteous because almost none of you are in your own classrooms. Keep in mind as the kids are eating, just keep in mind that somebody's taking care of your classroom, take care of theirs. Just be vigilant on the kids and don't let them make a mess of it. All right. If there are no other questions, we're going to close the door on testing. So, yes, sir. All right, well, can we table it and I'll get to you after we're done with the, okay. All right, so we're going to do great on testing. Y'all have already been encouraging the scholars. Encourage each other. Testing's hard for us too. So just make sure you're patting everybody else on the back and supporting each other. It's important. So now we need to go through Safety and preparedness. So we have yet to have a severe weather drill, so we're probably having one of those very soon. So I want to go over a couple things with y'all real quick. So we want to make sure that you understand evacuation, lockdown, severe weather. And we're going to go over all these evacuation procedures. You know, lockdown you should know, severe weather will be new, reverse evacuation we haven't talked about a lot, and then the crisis response team and the campus emergency plan. Evacuation is basically the same route as fire drill. We all just rally outside where we have the fire drill, the exact same way we do fire drill. Just occasionally, if we had a gas leak in the building or something of that nature, we'd have to evacuate the entire building. It's the same kind of drill, but we don't call it a fire drill, we call it an evacuation drill. But the same procedures are followed. Take your bag, take your roster, make sure you know who's there, who's missing, so we can count. Any questions on that? Should be pretty cut and dry. We've done it before. Reverse evacuation. So this is if we're playing outside, so PE teachers especially, or if you brought your student leadership class outside, or we just have, or you're doing a lab outside, or you're getting inspired for English or art or whatever, or social studies. If I cover every course subject, please. Okay, math, I'm sorry. Math's going out, they're measuring the height of the flagpole and the shadow and using Pythagorean theorem, and anyway. If something happens outside, we need to bring everybody in. We'll do a reverse evacuation drill. That just means everybody comes in to the building and into into classrooms if possible. If there was a chemical spill, which seems very unlikely given our location, we'd notify you whether you needed to cover mouths or anything like that. Same kind of deal though, if we have a reverse evacuation drill, you still grab your bag, get the sheet, check everything, let us know by having the sheet saying all clear outside your door. Okay, so red or green so we know what to do. Okay. Lockdown we've done before. There are two kinds of lockdown procedures. There's red and yellow. Red we've done before. That's everybody locked down. That's the kind of thing that, God forbid, shooter in the building or something very dangerous. You close the blinds, turn off the lights, put everybody out of line of sight. We've done that before. Y'all did great on that. There's another lockdown drill. So that's the red lockdown drill. And that comes over the phone as a 5901 drill. Yellow is a little different. Yellow is there's something happening in the area but nothing immediate. So we lock you down. People can still move, but no entry exit from the building, and we only move, I won't say this, only done by announcement from us. So there will be people moving in the building. It's not the shut everything and cower in the corner, but a drill we can run. So that's the yellow drill. It's different from the red because it won't come over the phone as a 509 red lockdown drill. If you look at the phone, it says red lockdown drill in the print on it. So in yellow, in lockdown drills, we've already done this before. I'm not going to belabor that. We did it well last time. Here's the one I really want you to pay attention to, because we're getting that time of the year, evidently. This is new for me. We had hurricane drills in Houston, so this is a different gig now. We have tornadoes up here. I guess they're smaller, whatever. But if you'll look here, and I hope you can see this well, the red bars are where we hunker down for severe weather drills. We evacuate every exterior building, or every exterior room, and go to hallways. Or if you're in an interior room, and this is where this doesn't show very well, this line right here is actually the back of the classroom. So if you're in 125 or 126, you actually hunker down right there, in the classroom, okay? The rest of you, either in the side of your rooms, or in the hallway if you're 129, 127, 128, 24, 23, in the various areas. Does everybody see where they need to go? All right.
I have a question because this happened during volleyball season last year.
Okay.
When we were in the gym, primary was already gone, so I pulled the kids out of the gym and went to that back hallway.
This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we went there. Is that fine, or do we need to go against that back wall
Right here?
here? Yeah.
I would say here, just so you're not interfering with any of the primary
Well,
scholars.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I can probably find out what's going on. Okay.
Now I'll double check with that to make
And
sure.
also check, there might need more space, because if we have 2 classrooms in there, do we just do like a double or triple line?
Because especially here, that's a great question. Because right here, if we have everybody, and I'll show you the position we want people to get in for the tornado drills, you may not be able to fit everybody against the wall, so form 2 lines. So you have 1 line here, and then a line right behind them, all right? But as close to the wall as possible. picture's worth 1,000 words. We'll come over the announcements and make that announcement for severe weather severe weather warning until you move to safe zones. We want to get them all in a row, keep everybody calm and quiet, and keep everybody in place. Nobody needs to, obviously it goes without saying, but nobody needs to go to the bathroom, nobody needs to go call their mom, nobody needs to do anything other than hunker down where they're supposed to be. And we'll give you an all clear, and we'll resume class. Like I said, we will probably be doing one of these drills very shortly. We expect to take no more than 5 minutes. Evacuate the room, get in positions, have your signs, ready to go, bam, everybody's green, we go back to class. Minimal interruption of the instructional day. If you have any questions, these are the people to call. I know all of you have at least one of the dean or director's numbers. So if there's anytime anything like this happens and you have a question, you can feel free to call one of us or text one of us and we'll respond. If you would like to have these numbers available to you afterwards, yes ma'am.
I'm sorry,
That's fine.
does the tornado drill light, if we're doing the drill, is it coming over the phone or is it coming over the loudspeaker?
Should both.
Should
be
both, okay.
As the lockdown drills and other things, anything we have that does that should come over
The
the loudspeakers and the phones. And we realize that things like, so when we do fire drill, you hear fire drill over the loudspeaker, right?
It's a siren.
It's the siren, it's the fire
Oh, that's right, we
siren.
do the fire, yeah, that's right, we do. I'll double check, I'll find out for you, because I know PE is
No,
when
we
you're all
can't
in the
hear
cafeteria.
anything that's not over the loudspeaker.
If you have any questions that we can't answer, you can put on the board, and we'll have Wes or Ops guy will address it.
Right. If you don't have some of these numbers and you want them, please email me, I'll make this slide available to you. Program 911 into your phone. That's a joke. CPS is kind of a different gig. Most of y'all will let the counselors cover that. You can also log on to CPS via the website to report things for CPS. I find that to be a little more efficient than waiting on hold for them for 8 years. They just have they're just so overloaded. A lot of times when you call, even if it's an emergency, they make you wait for an hour or 2. Whenever we have evacuation, the whole point is to get the kids out there, get them where they're supposed to be, get them accounted for, and be done with the drill. As you know, seconds count. Lockdowns, staying outside, severe weather, just keeping everybody calm. Have we had a severe weather drill here? Or has anybody been in a severe weather drill where it was actually a severe weather warning and not the drill? Awesome. Okay, so if you want to know what it's like, tap some of the people that have done it and let them know. Share your wisdom with the group so they can know what to do. We've outlined it very carefully, but it's always different when it's in the moment.
I have something to insert. 2 things. 1, stay calm. The kids feed off of you, just be calm. It's okay, we're gonna live. It's a drill, even if it's for real, be calm, die calm. Don't die all agitated. They'll bleed off onto you. Be conscious of the volume that your scholars are at so that you can hear directions so you can relay it to them. It's really easy for scholars, if those of you that are veterans, you know that they get real agitated and they're giggling or they're loud. They don't really know how to interact with each other or behave during this time. So just be extra tight with them during these kind of movements, just so you make sure that that you can hear the directions to relay to them. That's it.
Just a quick recap of what you need to do almost all the time. Keep doors locked. You guys do a great job of that. I have to pull my keys in and out of my pocket 18 times a day to get to the room, so great job on that. Engage all visitors. You're not going to offend anybody by asking what they're doing in our building. That tends to impress visitors, actually. It's walking through the halls where nobody talks to you at all that's a little disturbing when you're walking into a school that you've never been in. So if you see somebody and they don't have a badge on there, feel free to stop them. Be respectful, but feel free to say, hey, can I help you? You know, I'm a teacher here, blah, blah, blah. And see what they're doing there for. And they'll tell you, and it might be a chance for you to brag on your kids or brag on the school and leave a good impression with the visitor. But it also keeps everything safe. Because occasionally we have parents that try to cut through the door. They don't do that, they have to check in. We don't know who is there or what's happening if they don't check in. And we practice all the time with our different drills. So, any questions on this? All right, thank you for your attention, I appreciate it. We will now hand it off to Ms. Davis, who is going to do a fabulous video over exemplar scholar response.
passed out, this is second row, piece of paper to each group. Will everyone please make sure they have a copy? All right, if I get everybody's attention really quickly, please. Like Mr. Dodd just said, Mr. Dodd just said, our quick PD today is about exemplar scholar responses. So we spoke a few weeks ago about CFUs and engaging questions. We want to make sure that the responses that we're asking of our scholars is as impressive as the questions we put so much thought into. So right now, if you would, glance, you have about 3 minutes to glance at the paper in front of you and answer these 2 questions, all right? What do the top 2 reasons for interview rejection have in common? And then what are your thoughts on this and our implications as a school? We'll take 2 minutes to look at those reasons, talk to your group, and then we'll share out.
Feel free to discuss with your group once you look at the top 2 reasons for it.
I see it very
Top 2 reasons.
Take another 30 seconds. All right, if I can get your eyes back up here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So I did the ultimate not a good teacher thing. I gave you 2 sheets of paper to save time, but this one right here is the only one that we're looking at right now. So from the University of Wisconsin's Career Center, reasons for candidate rejection, all right, from interviews, job interviews. What do the top 2 reasons for interview rejection have in common? Ms. King.
Poor communication. The top 2 reasons. Poor communication.
Excellent. The top 2 reasons all have to deal with communication. And what are your thoughts on this and the implications for us as a secondary school? Ms. Magia?
So, being able to articulate their ideas and what they, how they present themselves starts now. They learn how to do it now. Really necessary whenever actually entering into the workforce.
Exactly. What stood out to me when I looked at this was that the top skills had nothing to do with your technical ability, your knowledge on your actual job that you were applying for, no actual technical skill, whether you could type or whether you could, build something if you're an engineer. The number one most important thing that you needed when you came to these interviews was the ability to communicate. And so that's what we're going to focus on, is giving our scholars that practice and that experience communicating through the responses that they give us. All right? So why are exemplar responses so important? All right? In Partners, you have another sheet of paper in front of you, all right, that says, employers want communication skills in new hires. Please take that paper out. In Partners, if you will read this, I'm going to come around with some Post-it notes and answer these 3 questions on your Post-it notes. What's the first question that we're looking to answer? Mr. Walker?
Of the skills content demanded in new hires, which type of skills are rated highest, lowest?
And the second one for us, please, Ms. Moore?
It says, how will holding our scholars accountable to articulate verbal and written responses help them in the future?
And the third one for us, please, Ms. Rodriguez?
What can educators do to build these necessary skills and scholars?
So again, you're going to read through that article and answer those 3 questions with your group. You have about 5 minutes to go. You can work with your partners unless you are one of the children.
About 3.5 minutes left.
Teamwork and interpersonal skills are critical. Everything we do is always working with other people. If there's another US type
Communication skills is your from the crowd. When coming here to receive a job candidate with an MBA, PhD, degree, or other specialized business degrees that accountants and become equipped with the whole package. You know, clear sales, knowledge, skills, and ability. With your degree, requires foundational knowledge, strong analytical quantitative academic skills, so as you think about the culture for your career. I will be stand out from communication and job search or oh, this is that's what I was talking about. When it says low, like we're talking
So basically skills help them. Yeah, so radio stations are kids are fine.
well, it's interesting because I guess they're saying that leadership skills are actually communication skills versus just being able to manage things. So that's what they think is
And what I figured too, you know, these are, this is all about entry level position, so someone interviewing you for an entry level position here, or mid-level position here, is able to say, okay, that person can communicate well, I can coach them up to like, here, this is the kind of other thing, but if they can't communicate, I'm not even this one.
Or the person here, whichever one.
I don't know, because it depends on the
About 45 seconds.
Over what? Or below what? Over technical skill. Your age is
What did y'all think about this article?
I'm still trying to read it.
Thank you, Church. 3, 2, 1, 0. So of the skills that companies demanded new hires, which types of skills were at the top of the list there? Mr. Carradine?
Very top.
Yes.
Communication, teamwork,
All right.
interpersonal.
So which types of skills were at the lowest, were ranked the lowest there? Mr. Watson?
Managing human capital, managing decision-making process.
And so all of those can be categorized as what types of skills? Managerial or leadership skills. So we have communication at the top and we have leadership towards the bottom. Does anybody have any opinions or thoughts about why that may be the case? Mr. Lin?
Well, I don't think managing is the same as leadership.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of people, when they think leadership, is just like, I'm gonna manage the situation.
Mhm.
Whereas they're saying here that it's actually, the mark of a leader is somebody who can communicate their thoughts and ideas well,
Mhm.
versus just being able to control how something works.
All right.
I was gonna say the same thing, just going off of that, just to be a good leader, you have to be able to articulate what you want, and if you can't do that with communication skills, then you can't.
I would say that leadership skills require you to be able to adapt to the situation.
Mhm.
And different people have different leadership styles, and depending on the situation that you're dealing with, you should be able to adapt. So adaptability is very important.
Very important, all right. So how will holding our scholars accountable to the types of responses they give us help them out when they're applying for these mid-level positions, and even before that, these entry-level positions? If we're holding scholars to a high bar of expectation, how is that going to help them in the future? Ms. Easton?
This kind of goes with number 3 as well, but holding them to a high expectation of receiving those scholarly responses, but at the same time, listening is a huge communication skill, if I can speak. It's listed on this list, and holding them to the standard of tracking and listening to other scholars and then being able to repeat what they're saying or what they've really listened will help them so much in the future, because one of the skills that they said from this that they didn't like is someone having excessive talking and not really having that skill of knowing when to listen. And I think that our scholars can definitely continue to build that.
All right, exactly. And so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at how we're going to build them up to have the communication skills necessary to be successful in college and beyond, through the written responses that they give us and the verbal responses that they give us to the questions that we are asking them and the questions that they are asking each other. All right? So, Ms. Jackson, would you like to do this?
I will. As I apologize for being late, we were getting a couple things made for today so that we can actually roll this out to scholars and hold them accountable for it. So my apologies for being late. So we're going to do an activity where we're going to get some practice with this for exemplar and non-exemplar sorting. So we're going to have some CFUs and some exemplar scholar responses, or some scholar responses, not necessarily exemplar, pop on the screen. So with your team, with your table, you're going to read the question and responses. Step 2 is to do what, Dr. Hurd?
Decide whether the responses are exemplar or not.
Great, with your table. And then third step, can you read that for us, McCoy?
Explain what makes the answer exemplar or what it is missing, compile a list.
So on a Post-it note with your team or with your table, jot down whenever you see a scholar response, if you decide this is not exemplar, jot down what it's missing. If it's missing something, jot it down. And then the last step, the end goal is for your group to have a list of 3 to 5 things that make an exemplar. That's the thing you're writing on the Post-it notes. So jot down what those things are missing. The last step, if the answer is not exemplar, rewrite it to make it exemplar. So the 2 things you should be writing down are what, Ms. Lindsay?
It's written down, what's not, something it's exemplar or not exemplar. And if it's not exemplar, we need to be rewriting it to make it exemplar.
Yes, and specifically also what it's missing. So there's 3 to 5 things of what it's missing. Thank you. Perfect. So our first one, example 1, these are questions that we've actually pulled from people's classes across subjects of CFUs that we've heard. So step number 1, or CFU number 1, can you read that, Mr. Prince?
What is the difference between revising and editing?
Great, so this is a question that we've heard asked in class, and this was a response that a scholar has given before. It's when you look at the bigger picture of the paper, and editing is when you look at the smaller details. With your table, for the next minute, discuss, is this an exemplar or a non-exemplar response? If it is exemplar, what makes it exemplar? If it's non-exemplar, what keeps it from being exemplar? And jot those things down. You have 3 minutes to do this, and we'll come back together.
So what should the scholar do?
Well, if there was a difference, the person, the if they're breaking down,
No, they're all different. So what's interesting is that the scholars are on the right track, right? And that editing is when you look at small things like capitalization, grammar, things like that. Revising is when you look at the ID, organization, of the ID. So they're on the right track, but what's the difference specifically? So I'm offended right now. It's not.
There's about 30 more seconds, 30 more seconds.
So one of the things, so one of the things you can do, like I said, was, and then you said it. So you want to take away it, whether they need to replace it. So if they say revising and editing, they're really actually. So if I take out it and I say revising is when, and I say editing, what have I actually done to that question?
All right, we're back in 3, 2, and 1. That was a weird one, sorry y'all. We'd like to share out what you said, exemplar or non-exemplar. Raise your hand if you said this was an exemplar response. An exemplar response. Non-exemplar. Raise your hand if you said non-exemplar. Lena's still gonna look around and see if it's all right. Let's hear from Ms. Jackson's table in the back. Can you tell us why this was non-exemplar? Let's make sure we're tracking them in the back.
It was too broad and vague, and it needed to be more specific in its answer. And that revision is when you change or correct the organization thesis and or add and delete sentences, whereas editing is correcting grammar and spelling issues.
So this was non-exemplar because it was lacking what specifically?
It was lacking information. It was too general.
Lynn, can you add on to that with your table of what you said?
I think it also lacked the proper vocabulary and the response. I think when she revised it, she had included a proper, like, instead of just saying it's, when you look at it, what is it referring to?
So the scholar did use a complete sentence, but the it's is ambiguous. So to clarify or synthesize what everybody said, here was the CFU, here was the initial scholar response. This is what we determined the exemplar scholar response to be. In the blue, you can see the scholar has restated the question here. The difference between revising and editing is. So they restated the question. Revising looks at the bigger picture of the paper, while editing looks at the smaller details. There's your answer. Here's that example that Ms. Jackson was talking about that this paper is missing. Notice the difference between scholar response 1 and scholar response 2. Which response would get that scholar a callback for an interview for round 2? The second one. Can we push kids to get to this level? If we know what it looks like. Absolutely. It's very, very big difference. Yes, Dr. Hurd. Say it one more time.
What would you do to push a left student to get to that level?
Well, I think even giving them this